Further, Lampedusa is a place you'll know off the coast of Italy. It's another island slightly less well known than Sicily, but it's become a real focal point for an awful lot of migration from North Africa. This is a piece of film that was shot yesterday, I believe, with showing about 112 boats heading towards Lampedusa in one day alone. That means 5,000 people. Watch this. We haven't got sound on it, but you can see basically there's a whole load of boats coming. They're literally in a queue to land on the shore of Lampedusa, and a place where basically they don't have much of a population at all. And once we see what happens when they're on the land, you basically end up finding out that there's just dozens and dozens, thousands and thousands of people pushing, shoving, trying to get somehow seen, somehow recognised, somehow processed in some way. It's completely out of control. I don't know if you've seen that before, Isabel, but I mean, it's really quite frightening.
I actually haven't, but you're right, it is frightening. It must be very frightening for people who actually live on that island. Yeah. And are facing what is effectively, let's not beat about the bush here, an invasion.
It is.
That's what that is.
Yeah, and what we can see now is what's happening on the land as the sort of very limited army try to sort of control the mass numbers of people just arriving every single minute of every single day.
I mean, it is unbelievable, and what it shows you is that these patterns of global migration are a very, very serious demographic challenge, and challenge on so many other levels, cultural, socio-economic, all the rest of it, and primarily, for many countries, a real issue of national security, including for our own. I mean, we tend to concentrate here very much on what's happening across the Channel, and it's still astonishes me really that we're in the position we are, where it's become so normalised for boats to come over. But what are we going to do if the numbers that we already see coming over, which I would argue are completely unsustainable, suddenly go times 10?
Well, exactly right. But this is where it all begins, because this is the easiest point of entry to the European Union. So basically what happens is they come on these boats, which are multiple. They get to Lampedusa, suddenly they're in Europe. And from that moment on, obviously the people in Lampedusa don't want to keep them there, so they then move on to mainland Italy, and from thence through Europe to France and then to Dover.
Yeah. I mean, it truly is frightening, and I find it bewildering that the government thinks this is somehow an issue of second order, that they can allow it to drift, that it isn't a priority from the moment the government gets into action early in the morning till the very last thing at night, and then all through the night too, please. Why is this not a priority to absolutely end this trade and this practice? Because by just saying you're going to end it and coming up with ideas and notions, that is no way good enough, because all it does is continue the vacuum that allows the trade to continue to grow. We've seen it.
I mean, is there any point in trying to find some kind of international solution to this? Because will it come to that in the end? I mean, I know that we don't particularly trust the European Union or any of the independent countries in there to stop it. But the Italians have got, you know, a pretty sensible Prime Minister now who's trying to stop the tide. But it's just physically impossible, I think.
I would say I've got very little confidence in international solutions. I mean, of course, it's good to have some guiding principles, some overarching agreements, but the best we can do is control what we can control. We can't control what the French do or what the Germans do or what the Italians do, but we can control our own borders, and we can use our own armed forces to do so. And I don't think we should be squeamish about that. In the end, what is the point of our armed forces if they are not able to shore up our own boundaries? I mean, it's a fundamental thing. So let's not look to the EU. I can't imagine anything more naive than thinking some type of agreement with the European Union is going to solve a problem that's down on our own south coast.
Right. Well, I've got a tweet here from Tony up in the northeast, who says basically there's a big sign at Newcastle Airport that says if you arrive at this airport without a passport or documentation, you will be arrested. That's pretty clear policy to me. Now, we've also seen earlier part of this week 2 illegal migrants being jailed because they attacked some French police on their way to a dinghy on the other side, and then arrived here, were identified, went to court. But the charge and the conviction is trying to enter Britain illegally. So if you can lock up 2 people for that, then surely you can charge all of them with that.
I agree. And in fact, under the guidance, if you don't claim asylum in the first safe place, that is a fundamental reason for your claim to be rejected just on the basis of that. So, look, there are simple solutions to this, which is to charge and jail and lock up people who continue to flout the system. But there doesn't seem to be either the will or the infrastructure in place to do that. We know that our own prisons are absolutely overflowing, but why can't we? We showed that we can do things when push comes to shove. We can do things pretty quickly. We turned the Excel Centre and other facilities into Nightingale hospitals very quickly when we had to. It's the political will that's lacking and the leadership. And we're not going to get anywhere without those two things.
No. And I mean, what do you think this will do for Keir Starmer's chances of becoming Prime Minister? I think you might have made a massive mistake here.
Well, I think he just sounds like a complete plonker, honestly, because as I said, you know, ordinary people are not going to think this is the solution. I mean, remember the very people who are most exercised by the invasion across the channel, are the people who voted for Brexit. So it's not really going to be music to their ears, is it? To hear the guy that's trying to become the next Prime Minister say, oh, well, I think the solution to all this is a deal with the EU. Great idea.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. I know there are some other big stories around at the moment, but I have to show you this little clip. I don't know whether